Hey everybody, it's Paul Grossman, the Dark Arts Wizard, and it is my pleasure to be speaking with you today at the DevOps Festival. I appreciate the invite, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about test automation, RPA, and whether it can do test automation on such extreme interfaces such as the SpaceX vehicle interaction front end, or even the Wheel of Fortune website, and using it to do test automation for fun and possibly profit. Who knows? And how can we do it in plain English? How can it possibly all be done? A little bit about myself. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter, and you can follow me. I'm the Dark Arts Wizard. If you want to send me email, send it to thedarkartswizard@gmail.com. You want to learn a little bit more about where I came from, how I got started, check out the testskill.com with Joe Colantonio, episode 103. That's a little far back. It's 6 years ago. It is the Halloween episode. And just about every 2 years, I do the Halloween episode again with Joe Colantonio. This year is that year. So it's going to happen again. And I hope you do tune in to hear me do a couple of crazy, funny voices like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. But that's not what we're going to do today. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about automation, my favorite topic. Oh, one more thing. If you want to catch some of these things on YouTube, I've got them all. You can go to YouTube and just type in Paul Grossman, my name, Paul Grossman, the Dark Arts Wizard, and that will take you exactly to my YouTube channel where I've got tons of videos and a lot of different tools. Now, my home base is in Chicago, Illinois, and I love working here because I've got a great new employer who is allowing me to take a few moments to do sessions like this. A little bit about myself. I have been doing test automation officially for 20 years as of the beginning of September. For 16 years, I worked in Micro Focus's HP VB script. For about 2 years prior to that, I worked in, a little thing called Windrunner. You guys may have remembered it. Still got it. Still got the serial number on there as well. I don't know if they'll be happy about that, but I do like to remind them that that was really a really cool tool. You could actually stop the execution of the script at a line and then drag the line back up in order to execute the lines that you changed on the fly. That's something that no other tool that I know of currently does today. Just a little tip to Micro Focus. Bring back the old Windrunner. It's actually a really cool and exciting tool. All right, enough of me talking about that. A few other things I've done is I've been working in Selenium for about 3 years, and we'll talk about why I moved into a whole new range and tool, which was JavaScript. And I've been a conference speaker for going on about 15, 16 years. You can find me at, I've spoken at Selenium conference, at a ton of user events. I've got a lot of customers and clients in my history. I've worked for, starting out at a medical device manufacturer, testing their x-ray machines, moved on to a floral delivery company, testing both their florist sites and their websites with UFT and Windrunner. Worked for a popular video and game rental company, a home appliance manufacturer, did some entertainment work for an entertainment delivery company, and then a survey department at an Illinois university. If you've ever read, heard the podcast, or seen the movie Freakonomics, that's the place where they got their start. And most recently, I'm working for a mortgage industry. It's a ton of fun. I love what I do. I've been working in UFT, I've worked in Selenium Java, and I've also worked currently with WebDriver IO and did a little stints working with Cucumber as well. So enough about me. Let's move on to our presentation. What are we going to get out of this? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the original RPA tool, talk about a case study of the DBA, the developer, and the reluctant RPA tester. The RPA and natural language processing, RPA demos for fun and profit, and then a couple of books and podcasts to recommend. And I'll have a little bit of code, but I'm going to trying to keep it simple and easy for you guys. One of the main things I discovered is that I can probably describe an automation framework very much like a puzzle piece. At the very top level, you've got all your test cases. You want to put together fast test case creation, have some modular business processes, and then be able to build all that with plain English commands, with CI/CD executing the test cases, data being pulled in and taken out of the application under test, and generating data with regular expressions, and having all sorts of different operating systems running these tests, Windows, Linux, and Mac. How do you get all of this together in one shot? You're going to have to be a little bit more knowledgeable in a lot of different areas. So let me tell you where I started. The original RPA tool was a tool called AutoIt 3. I saw it about 20 years ago. Guess what? It's still in production. It's still there. It has great staying power. And it's used to automate applications in Windows. Almost any application that you've got. It doesn't necessarily have to be a browser or anything like that. It can be an application on Windows that is local. And one of the challenges I had on a recent client was to verify that no product sold for $0. And I was thinking I could probably figure that out even without having a single bit of an automation framework set up. I could just have a very simple setup done with AutoIt and let it run all night looking and searching for a product code, and getting all the product code results and just looking for something that said $0 and 0 cents. And if it found it, reporting it. The thing was that I didn't have any database access, and there were 10,000 SKUs to go through. But the cool thing was that AutoIt was able to do it really, really well. And I'd like to say I found something that had $0, but I did not. But it was actually a really good tool for learning how to work with that. One thing I don't recommend is trying to use AutoIt with web testing. It's not that good as far as a web testing tool. Use just about anything else. That just happened to push it to the limits. But it is a good little filler if you're looking for something that, if you have an application that just has to interact with a local client application, it can actually fill the gap really well. Our next bit is going into with the DBA and the developer and the RPA QA tester, the reluctant QA tester. Let me give you this story. It's that national survey company, and they were doing a survey of outcomes of higher educations over a lifetime. The project was to do an ETL, extract, transform, and load. I had really nothing to do with that. It had already been completed, but they did want to make sure that all 50,000 records in one database with 13 business rules had been copied completely exactly over to the new database. The challenge is where they wanted to verify there's no errors in that ETL process, as I just said, and the developer said, hey, the project was implemented correctly. All you gotta do is sign off. If anybody's ever heard someone tell you that from a developer, you know the hairs in the back of your head go way up. And the DBA, she told me my stored procedures just checked everything and it all passed in 15 minutes. So all you got to do is sign off. And what did I say? I said, well, that's great, but I'm an automation engineer and I do actually have to test the stuff that I've given to as a challenge. So I do need some connection strings, credentials, and some SQA queries. Well, they weren't willing to give me that. They just wanted me to sign off on it. And I said, okay, I've got a different approach. I'm going to use one of my automation tools, Micro Focus UFT, and all I'm going to do is go and pull up certain fields out of your SQL server and compare them to the exact same fields in Oracle and make sure that I get the same results. And they said, perfectly fine, go ahead. It was slow. It actually took about 6 hours to get through 50,000 records, but at the end, it turned out that there were 13 records that did not match to each other. And as it turned out, what I did find was that they had made one small mistake, just a simple and or logical comparison, making one of the more rarer ratings, basically someone who had a doctorate and was making a lot more money than anybody else, versus someone who was a doctor who was making slightly less money than everybody else. And after 8 hours of front-end comparisons, I found those 13th rule had 3 truth table errors in it in the first 30,000 records. And what really bugged me was that 3 weeks earlier, this particular defect had actually been found by my team by a manual tester, and they had told her, no, that's fine, you've made a mistake. And that's why they called in a second person to do the automation check to see if it was correct. And once I pointed out that there hadn't really been a change recently in the truth tables between or and, they sheepishly kind of went back and fixed their product. Now we'll go into natural language processing. All that really means is that we're going to write our code in plain English. And there are a lot of extractions that we can do. We can use Gherkin, Cucumber in order to write processes in near plain English and go interact with them. However, at one point I realized that on one of my projects that we had almost 50 link anchor elements. Those are links with the A in it. And when we had a brand new release of the application, all of those items turned into buttons. And because we also had 50 of those elements and there was a lot of cut and paste that was there before I got in, there was about 200 lines of code that we'd have to change and fix when the release had just come out. And the client was actually used to having the application give us some results within 20 minutes of the execution. And now it's probably going to take 2 days. So I implemented something I call dynamic class switching, where we said, okay, if I can't find this as an A, try and find it as a button before we throw an error. And if you can find that, go and click on it. And then got 99% of our test cases running. Only 3 test cases needed to be maintained at that point, and they were just elements that were just so wildly different that we needed to change the repository. But that was a quick change of 3 elements and 12 lines of code. No big deal. Language processing engine that we could transform and parse just English without having to match some sort of arcane format and just go and interact with something. So like click on the add to cart link. Here's our add to cart link right over here. And could we parse this into something that we could interact with? Well, here's the code in Selenium how you could do it. The XPath would be to get a link that contains the text add to cart, and then go and get its by element, find the elements that match that, see if there's more than 0 that have a width greater than 0, width means it's visible, and go and click that element. You could also do it in UFT in less lines of code, and in Test Rigger we could just say click add to cart. No big deal. Now if you want to build your own natural language parser, that's easy enough. You just split up the words and parse them into an array of words. And this is how you can do it in Java. This is how you can do it in VBScript. Those words parse out into about 6 different types of data: verbs, articles, element names, element types, locations, and data. And the verbs translate into click, select, enter, mark, clear for checkboxes and radio buttons, check, assert, or verify for page and fields that they contain values, and also grab and save to grab values from the page to reuse and validate elsewhere. You'd also need to have some way of dynamically generating unique data. Now the verbs would also generate that data using regular expressions, and probably be really easy if you just used an A to Z with 10 times over, which this translates over to pick random letters from A to Z and do it 10 times, and you might get a string similar to this: 10 random letters out there to create a random email or a random password or random email or a random username. Step 2 is just remove the articles on, the, into, from, as, or and just dump them. The next thing we want to do is extract the element type, and that could be explicitly stating that we're looking for a link, a list, or a field, or we could say grab a value roughly below county and save it as county. That implies that we're looking for a string called county and that there's some value that is roughly below it. Maybe we extract the location and do a quick demo here. Could we actually find the county of Cook underneath county and grab it roughly below that text? Well, let's do a quick demo. Just so happens I happen to have a TestRigger test case set up here where we are actually going through the zipcode.com website. This is what it looks like when you go and look at it and load it. And you can go and search for your city, region, or zip code. And when I go and interact with this application, there is a couple of things I want to do. I want to enter Chicago into the search by region zip code and click First Chicago. So if I do this and take a look at our browser that we took a screen capture, we actually entered in Chicago into the field and we selected the first reference of Chicago in the drop-down list. That's pretty cool. Next, we were going to go over and take a look at what happens when we are looking at this page. So if I open this in the window, well, this is the next page. It shows me Chicago, and there is County of Cook underneath there, and that's the value I want to get. So the last thing I wanted to do was to grab the value roughly below county and save this as Cook, and then check that the page contains Cook is roughly below county, and then check that save value. This county is Cook. So let's take a look and see what it showed us. What we see as we open up in a separate window is that it actually found county outlined in yellow and picked up the word Cook that was roughly below it. Pretty cool. No XPath, no CSS, nothing fancy there. Just described what we were looking for, and TestRigger went and got it. So, how do you extract locations? Well, you'd need to support a lot of different ways. Not only roughly near some text, but maybe before or after it, in the middle of the screen, on the top edge of the screen, at the bottom left of some container, in the second right corner of the screen. There's actually a lot that you'd have to support in order to have relative element location in there. So the next thing we might want to do is we need to extract data and expected results. Well, it's pretty much the only thing that's left is the data. Selecting May to form the MILF list, or Paul and populate that in the name field, or even complex compound sentences where we were grabbing the value after some string and saving it as a zip code. Now this is all cool and dandy except for one thing, which is I call the curse of code density. How quickly can you get all this built? How quickly can you get a test case up and running? And when I talk about code density, I mean how many lines of code does it take us to write the exact same thing? As we started out, I said, click on the add to cart. Here are the number of lines we need to do it in Java. And that is 7 lines, 283 characters that you're going to have to type. You could go to Python and it goes down to 6 lines. You could go to VB script, gets down to 4 lines. Go to JavaScript, it's just 3 lines with an it item and clicking the add to cart where we are looking for a contains add to cart click. Or we could get down to plain English with TestRigger and do it in 1 line of code and 19 characters. Which one of these is going to take you longer or shorter to write? Because someone's going to ask you to write 100 test cases. All right, so demo time, RPA for fun. And that is seeing if we can get the SpaceX vehicle to go and dock right into the International Space Station. And when I tried it manually myself, things didn't go so well. All right, so the truth is, that's not really a true representation of an interface that we would like to try. What I would like to do is see if I can win some money, so I went and got myself a spin ID PG31631199, which is my Wheel Watchers Club. I don't watch it every single day. I just don't have time. I sometimes miss it. But I do have a script that's running from TestRigger that goes and checks if it sees the page does not contain "sorry, you haven't won this time." And this is exactly what it looks like. And if it does not see that, it will send an SMS to my phone number with content that says, "You have won Wheel of Fortune," reminding me to go and log in within the 24-hour period to go and collect my prize. So let's see what happens when we decided to automate buying tickets to the DevOps Festival event. Here we go. So the first thing we wanted to do was to click on Buy Tickets. So we'll go click on Buy Tickets, and then we also want to click on Register. And the next thing we wanted to do was to go and, let's see. We wanted to, we wanted to increase the quantity that we have. So we're going to go and increase this quantity to 1. And now we have our checkout button, and we're going to click on checkout. Next thing we got to do is put in our name. So I'll put in Paul. And this is where I use the most amount of seconds typing stuff in, like my email. The Dark Arts Wizard at gmail.com, or perhaps the Dark Arts Lord. I'm not sure how I got the lordship on that as being an American citizen, but hey, I'm all cool with that. And we're going to click on Continue. And this is where we end up and stop, because we want to verify that the price we've got over there is going to be pounds of $49. All right, let's go and stop our thing. We got 1 minute and 6 seconds just to record that. I'm going to click on this and stop the recording there. And here's everything that we put in there. Now, sometimes we do get a couple of extra items in there, so we might want to edit this a little bit. We clicked on Buy Tickets, Register. We are going to click on Quantity. We don't want to click on Quantity. What we do want to do is click on Increasing the Quantity, click the Checkout, put my name inside of there, and then click on Continue. And this last item, I was just clicking on the page, so we don't need that one either. But we do want to add in that we are checking that the page contains this amount of money over here. So I'm going to add that one in at the very end, like so. And we're going to go and hit Add and Run. Now, when we took a look, I believe, at TestRigger over here, we saw that there were no test cases, but now we have one that's been added, and look, it's called the 2-minute challenge, and it's executing. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. Got a big question mark there, because right now we are running an application. We're actually spinning up a virtual environment in the cloud, and we're waiting for that system to come up. It is a Windows environment, so it's going to take just a few seconds longer than bringing up, let's say, a Linux environment or a Mac environment. But once that's done, we start getting screen captures back. And you can see exactly what we said we're going to do. Click on Buy Tickets. I'm going to click on the Buy Tickets over here, and you can also see in this window that Buy Tickets is the area that we got. There's no XPath, there's no page object model. We just went and got our tickets and found it over there. Let's go back and take a look and see what else is going on here. This is kind of strange. The test just started over. Okay, that's kind of weird. Why would it do that? I don't know. Big mystery. We'll have to solve that at the end of this whole video, so stay tuned. One of the last things we wanted to do was, add in my my information over there. We'll open that up, and sure enough, it got Paul and Grossman and the Dark Arts Wizard email, and clicked on Continue. That was great. And the last thing you needed to do was to check that the price appears on our screen. So let's go take a peek at that. And sure enough, price being 49 pounds appears on the screen. That's fantastic. Now, there was one little secret. He kind of saw that the test restarted itself Well, that's because, well, we actually ran it under 3 different environments: Windows, Ubuntu, and Mac OS X. Now, of course, after did that little demo, somebody asked me, well, can you do it in Angular or React or Vue? And I thought, well, let's give it a shot. So I went and found myself a nice little website called Telerik. I'm going to click on Docs and Support over here. And what I want to do is hover over all products. And then I'm going to go and take a look. We've got Angular, React, Vue. So I'm going to take a look at React. And then we want to actually take a look at Docs and Demos. And under Docs and Demos, we've got Animation. So we're going to click on Expand. And here we have our Expand demo. So the way this works is that if you click on Animate, you'll get a little pop-up field that says Content. If you click it again, it goes away. And if we click on Horizontal, we're going to click on Animate, and it's got content again, it goes away. So that's our basic navigation and demo. So let's go write this inside of TestRigger. So let's see where I start off with. I said I clicked Docs and Support, and then I went and hovered over all products, and then I clicked on UI for React, and then I clicked Docs and Demos. We clicked on Expand, and we're going to check. We'll do our negative test first. Check that the page does not contain content, and then we want to click Animate. Then we'll check that the page contains content, and then we click on Animate again, and we check that page does not contain content, and then we are going to click on Horizontal, and I'm just going to let TestRigger guess if that's a button or a radio button. We're going to check that it does not contain this. Click on Animate, check that it does contain, and then repeat all that. Let's give this a run and see how close I got to the actual test. And it is going to go and start executing our test. So there we go. We've got Docs and Support. Now let me click on this and just see if we got the right one over here. Docs and Support is actually listed up there. You may not be able to see it, so I'll zoom in. And we can zoom right up here, Docs and Support. One thing I want to keep in mind is that when we did the screen capture, it wasn't just this part of the screen. It got the whole thing all the way down to the bottom, including the stuff that wasn't on the screen. Let's see. We are clicking on Docs and Demos. We click on Expand. Well, did we find Expand? Looks like we did find Expand there, so I'll just zoom in real quick and take a look. And yes, we did find Expand. That's cool. Oh, there's a hover for it. Let's just make sure that the hover actually worked. So the hover went over all products here, and once we went on the hover, so I click on hover all products, right? And that gave me the drop down where we were finding React. So that hover actually gave us the React for this over here. That's good. And then we clicked on it. All right. So let's see what happened here. Oh no! Oh, this is not good. We've got an error in here. It says check page does not contain content. Well, I'm pretty sure when we did this that it does not contain content, and it does not. I'm going to go zoom in here just to show you. So the tool is telling us, yeah, it does contain content. Well, where is it? It should be highlighted in green somewhere. Okay, down here. Why is this looking at this? We use cookies to personalize content. We found the word content. It's actually on the screen. So we need to be a little bit more descriptive as to where that content field should appear. So let me zoom in here. Maybe we can find a way to re-edit this. So content is actually near animate. So I'm pretty sure that this content is nowhere near animate. So why don't we rewrite the test and see if we can get this to find the code closer to animate. So we said check page does not contain content near animate. Do that. That's cool. And we're going to go do something kind of cool. I'm going to do find and replace. And what I'm going to do to find and replace is check page does not contain content, and we're going to replace it with near animate. I'm going to find all. It finds one. We can check on that and say replace all. Near animate, near animate. Everything is said for near animate, and then we'll do the same thing for the ones that say that are not near animate. So let's go and find and replace, and I will pop this in here and pop this in here and say near animate. I'll go find everything that lists every test, and it was only one, so I'm going to replace what's selected. Cool. Let's go back and edit our test case. Take a look what it says. Yeah, everything says now that we check the page contains content or does not contain content. Let's give this another run. And now check that page does not contain content near animate. And sure enough, it does not. And we're checking that it does not contain. Check page does contain content near animate. And you can see when we zoom in that we do see content near animate in this area, not being confused by the content that is down here. Well, that's my opinion, is that low-code tools are definitely going to be the way of the future. And I do hope you enjoyed this presentation. I thank you for this, for watching my little demos. Do keep learning. Do check out some of these books on robotic process automation and leading quality from some great authors here. Check out the QA Lead podcasts by good old Jonathan Wright. Joe Colantonio always has great Automation Guild presentations. Aside from the Halloween episodes, the other ones are also awesome. Thank you very much. And now let's spend about 15 minutes taking on some Q&A. Have yourself a great day. Thanks. Bye.